Hey everybody, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head,
And I'm John Black.
and in this week's episode, we're going to review the new Steve Carell, Paul Rudd comedy Dinner for Schmucks, and then of course we've got our new feature, which is Pick of the Week. So as always, let's just get right into it. John, surprise me
Well,
again.
all right. This one even surprised me because it wasn't something I was expecting to be sent. It's this company called Wellgo USA that
Never heard of it.
they sent me this movie called IP Man. Um, and it's so cool. It's this it's about this story. It's this guy called IP Man or Yip Man, as he's referred to in Asian. Um, he was the developer of this style of martial art called Wing Chun, which didn't ring a bell to me at all. But the reason I wanted to watch was this guy was the sensei of Bruce Lee.
Hmm.
He's the guy who taught Bruce Lee his style of kung fu and got him into martial arts and all this other stuff. So this is the story of this guy's life. And it's an absolutely fascinating life. He was one of these guys. He comes from this little village where teaching kung fu is like the cottage industry of this village, and he's got the best school. He's the best teacher, but he doesn't like to fight. He only uses kung fu as like a more of a spiritual thing than a combat thing. And then some tough guys show up and want to beat up like go to every school and beat up their best guy. He ends up kicking the bad guy's ass. So even then, it's kind of just an enjoyable kung fu movie.
Really?
But
And this
then,
this is new.
yeah. I guess it came out in 2008,
Hmm.
so it's new to DVD. So anyway, so even if it's just these bad guys getting their ass kicked, it's kind of a fun kung fu movie. But then it takes place in a time where Japan invades China, and this guy's forced to fight in like a labor camp to keep the general happy, and teach the Japanese soldiers his style of kung fu. And it gets really intense. I mean, it's a great story,
Hmm.
and how he survives the war and returns um, back to his village. And it doesn't. The movie never, except for a little line at the end, talks about how he went on to be Bruce Lee's mentor. It's not part of the movie. I was looking on IMDb. There's an IP Man 2 coming out, so maybe that takes place when he teaches Bruce Lee. But considering I just thought it was going to be another. I like kung fu movies anyway, but this one really had a lot of depth. Great story. Director Wilson Yip knows how to handle action. But this guy Donnie Yen, you ever hear of him?
No, in fact, I was just looking him up online. He plays IP Man,
Yeah.
and so just to be clear, is IP Man the character who
Yep.
is Bruce Lee's mentor?
Right.
Okay,
Right. And it's about him as
wasn't
a
Donnie.
young man, and how he and the way he fights is it's just so cool because all these other guys are really aggressive, and this guy just like I guess the basis of his kung fu is that if you're attacking me, I use that momentum to just push you out of the way. And so whenever he's fighting these people, he just makes them look silly because he does it like with one hand, and it's just really stylish and cool.
Hmm.
But then when he has to fight for his life in front of these generals, and he takes on like at one point it was ten of the soldiers, the general soldiers, and just kicks all their ass. And not in this kind of like lots of wire work. It's not a Jackie Chan kind of like, ooh, look at me, I'm doing stuff. This is brutal fighting that is such a different style from his easy flowing, the early part of the movie. So I just was blown away by it. And it's a deluxe set. There's two discs. There's tons of extras.
You got
Uh,
the Blu-ray?
no,
The
no, like I said, this was, I think, it's the same company a while ago when we first started talking about DVDs. I had Happy Chainsaw something. I forget what it was called. But it was the same company, this Wellgo USA, I guess, who puts out Asian
Mhm.
movies. And this is like only the second release I've gotten for them. I didn't
Hmm.
request it. It just showed up on my doorstep, and I was just so happy. So I highly recommend people look for IP Man.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to edit the audio of the trailer in here. I've not into the podcast. I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can get the audio
Hey,
and edit the trailer. And if I can accomplish that, I will put it in right here,
okay, does the trailer look
right here.
cool?
I I haven't watched it yet. I'm just saying that.
All right.
And if I get it, it will go, wait, right here.
Okay, I did it. I'm going to give it a try. Try and narrate this. Lots of karate chopping. A grandmaster of martial arts with a lineage of 2 million disciples. A world-renowned martial arts maestro. Bruce Lee's initiation instructor. Wing Chun, Ipiman. The life story of a martial arts grandmaster. Did you used to practice martial arts, right? Why did you stop? I get hungry when I exercise, you know. So I need to exercise less, okay? Brother IP, are you still practicing? I'd rather use my time to scrape for a living. Hitting and punching, pushing, splooging, kicking. People at gunpoint here. Why did you open fire? I don't care what the world is like. If a family stays together, everything will be okay. But in bad times, shouldn't you do something? You watch your countrymen get beaten to death? Where's your dignity? Have you no guts? Have you no guts? Go beat them up. He's getting ready to beat them up. What's your name? Just Chinese. Donnie Yen. Lots of punching there. Punching and some knives. Simon Yam and swishing knives. Slicing, punching. Epic. Kick to the jaw. Took that guy's head off. Steel pipe to the head. Heel to the face. Spin. Everyone needs to choose his own path. IP man.
So what have you got? What is your recommendation for?
I was fretting about this earlier. Yesterday I got a nice surprise in the mail. I got Family Guy season 8, and Sarah and I have been digging that quite a bit. She thinks it's pretty hysterical, you know, when something just, you know, if she's like in the kitchen or just doing something else and you can hear the audio of it, and then you just hear her laugh from the other room. That's pretty funny. You know, like when she's not even watching, but it makes her laugh from the other room. So that's amusing. But once again, it's not my choice for pick of the week. Although I do recommend it. It's just that I think that our listeners have probably seen all that stuff. But what I decided to do was really dig through my collection. And I literally went into the boxes in my closet. I broke out one of those large, plastic Home Depot crates, and I keep a bunch of my DVDs in there.
Okay.
And so I dug deep and pulled out and watched a 1987 Amy Madigan action flick, Nowhere to Hide, which I so digged when I got it. Like, oh God!
I want you to repeat the words. I want you to repeat those words. Amy Madigan action flick. I don't think I'd ever heard those before.
Amy Madigan action flick. This is like an early, all out female action flick. It came out in 87. It was produced by, forgive me, I'm going by memory, John Corman's wife. Music. The thing that got me interested in this movie is that at that time that I picked it up, well, basically all through the 90s and whatnot, and into earlier the last decade, probably until around 2003, I was so seriously into film soundtracks, and collecting Perez Sarabande and whatnot, and so this was an early score for Brad Fiedel, who of course scored the Terminator.
Okay.
One of my favorite scores. So this has kind of a Terminator feel to it. It came out in 87, stars Amy Madigan and Michael Ironside, and John Colicos, who Galactica fans will remember as the original Baltar from the 78, 79 series. I always loved that guy. Always loved him.
Okay.
And it also stars Garrick Hagan, who played Biggs Darklighter in Star Wars, who was mostly cut out of Star Wars. So it was amusing to see him, on screen and get a major credit at the beginning of the film. But so this movie, Nowhere to Hide, Amy Madigan plays a ex-Marine who is just recently retired, and her name is Barbara Cutter, so she's very cutting. And
Yeah, right,
so,
right.
so the movie begins where they're doing this. It's sort of like a paintball war game thing, but you don't really kind of know it. You know that until it's just sort of revealed. But anyway, they're shooting each other, and she ends up getting her husband caught in her crosshairs, and could basically, you're thinking that she's just going to kill the guy, but it turns out to be, oh, hi, honey, how are you? As they pull their helmets off, and she's like, I didn't want to get your shirt all messed up because I just washed it earlier today.
That was the best Amy Madigan impersonation I've ever
Yeah,
heard.
yeah. So what happens here is she's an ex-Marine, her husband's an ex-Marine, and they have a son, and he, I believe, is a helicopter pilot who has discovered that there's a mechanical deficiency in one of these mass-marketed helicopters. One of these rings are faulty, and it's basically causing these helicopters to crash.
Okay.
And so he finds out about this deficiency, and he's going to go public with it, and the powers that be inside the government decide to kill him. So apparently they had intended to kill anybody that knew about it. So they raid her home, kill her husband, and she's able to get her child out. And
Right.
so the movie becomes this let me see if I can recall the byline. They've destroyed her world. Now she's going to make sure they have nowhere to hide. It's a female revenge flick where she just doesn't have anywhere else to live. She knows that the government's after her, so she takes a child and heads into the hills where she is taken in by a recluse played by Michael Ironside, and of course he's the recluse that has all the guns and whatnot in his cabin. Up there, and
Right.
the movie sort of becomes this the government's gearing up to attack, and and she's arming themselves to face them in the hills, and it becomes this it's kind of like a I think the way they set it up was like a female Rambo situation.
Okay.
Where she just goes apeshit over everybody that tries to come near the cabin, or in that general area of the woods. She's just taking all these guys out. So it's like female Rambo kind of thing.
I just added it to my Netflix list. It's on demand, so I can watch it tonight.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm not saying it's good, but it is amusing. I was looking at some the foreign titles. In Germany, it was called The Merciless One, and in Spain it was called The Iron Woman. Here, let me. I'm gonna email you the poster right now. You're gonna get a kick out of this. Hold on. And I'm sending this to. It's the German poster.
Thanks.
Hold on. I keep mistyping.
I don't know.
It's on my computer somewhere. You will get a kick out of this. Come on, fast. It is. Here we go. Okay. Uploading. And okay, now sending. Okay.
I look forward to it.
All right. I think in retrospect, I may have to edit that part out so there's not so much time spent in me actually emailing you the poster.
It's okay. All right. So is that it for our recommendations for this week?
Yeah, I was going to do Mirror 2, which is coming out on video, which I kind of digged, but this was much more of a find, and it's from my personal collection, so,
right.
I mean, there's this company, Platinum Home Video, that put out so much trash, like 8 to 10 years ago. This was just like the distributor of trash movies, and this isn't a trash movie, it's just forgotten.
It sounds like more like a guilty pleasure, You're not going to try to defend it. In front of the other critics,
Michael Ironside, in his badass scenario that he, in a persona that he does so well, getting her in shape to, take on the forces that be. So it was kick-ass. It
Cool.
was. kick-ass before kick-ass. Dinner for Schmucks.
Yeah, yeah. Now, are we going to disagree on this? Did you enjoy it?
John, I did. I
Really?
did. Why? I thought you dig this movie.
No, no. I thought it was lame, lame,
Eh.
lame, lame. Um,
I was so sure that earlier today this was going to be a double. This was going to be 2 likes. You know?
really,
Shit.
really.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
No, it's funny. Seeing this movie, I've had this same experience a few times where I remember seeing American Pie, and it's happened at American Pie, at Borat, and now at Dinner for Schmucks, where I sat there like a painting, didn't crack a
Sean,
smile.
got to be kidding.
All around me, people were laughing, having a great time, and I'm staring at the screen going, "That's not funny."
Well, I
It's
mean,
just annoying.
I empathize. I've had those film experiences where I just didn't get it. I think
I don't think it's that I didn't get it. I mean, I just didn't
or
find.
get with the mood of what was happening
Right,
in the crowd.
right. That's just it. The
Like
mood of it was not with me at all. I'm not a big fan of Jay Roach as a director.
it could have been your disposition. I remember American what was that
American Pie.
Ninja Assassins or Ninja Assassin. I was just I was in such a foul mood that night and just destroyed my liking of the film. Everybody else had a blast.
Yeah.
You dig it? I walked out like, give me a friggin' break.
I just, there's something about this movie. I thought, well, why don't you tell people what it's all about?
Well, John,
You-
man,
you
I was
give it the more-
charmed from the
Give it the more positive spin. Tell people what it's all
It
about.
just, I want to say first though that I was so enchanted by the beginning of the film because they started with the Beatles' "Fool on a Hill,"
Uh-huh.
and they did a montage of the miniatures that Steve Carell's character creates, which is he taxidermies these mice. You don't see the actual process of the taxidermy,
Right.
but he puts them into dioramas, which are just amusing. So they tell these dioramas sort of paint a picture of his life and the important moments of his life, and you see these painstakingly created at the beginning of the movie to the Beatles' "Fool on a Hill," not a re-recording as you might see in like a Wes Anderson movie, because the Beatles or whoever owns the songbook, whatever, charges so much to get that music, but
The real
the
deal.
producers put the real deal into the movie. It's the real Beatles, and so that was kind of neat to see, a real Beatles song being heavily featured at the beginning of a movie.
Mhm.
So this is the story of this executive played by Paul Rudd, who is kind of a I don't know. I want to say he's like a corporate rat. He's a nice guy, but he's the kind of guy that will do, anything to try and get ahead in the corporate world. Not so much a cutthroat, but he's willing to forego what he knows is the right decision or the moral thing. So he does some questionable things in order to get ahead at work.
Right.
And, this slowly endears him to his bosses, who have this game that when you reach a certain point at this company, you're invited to participate in a dinner, which I think in the movie they call it a dinner for idiots, even though the movie is Dinner for Schmucks. But basically,
Right.
the game here is to play with people. You invite the most absurdly stupid, moronic person that you can think of, that anyone that you can bring to dinner, so that you can basically be lauded for your ability to bring to the table the biggest idiot that everyone else can make fun of.
Right.
Basically, you just have a good time. These people just have a good time making fun of these people. So Paul Rudd, in his desperate mode, happens to cross paths with Steve Carell, whom he hits with his car, and it's one of those things where it's just Paul Rudd's character believed that Steve Carell is just like a gift from heaven. He is the biggest oblivious moron that he has ever met, and it's just he feels like he's just hit the jackpot, and what he has to do is bring this guy to the dinner, and everything's going to be golden for him at work. But things don't work out that way, in the sense that Steve Steve Carell is such an idiot, but he's one of those moral idiots. He believes in love and truth and righteousness and
Right.
just doing the right thing. And he's been so squeezed by the pressures of his life because people walk all over him for being such a nice guy that he's crumbled, like squished like a raisin on the inside. And you slowly come to see this over the course of the film. And the opposing forces of people in his life are just monumental, and it's exemplified in I think a really funny like a mini supporting performance by Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, I was
I
wondering.
loved it, man. I loved it. His maniacal IRS boss who believes that he has the ability to enact mind control over people. It's hysterical.
Wow. Wow. Everything. First of all, Paul Rudd has been the same character every time. When he gets a supporting role and he can just be like a small part, maybe just appear in the movie like he did in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and he does something kind of quirky and funny.
So you don't think he's the leading guy?
No, I think he's been the same wimpy weasel in the last 3 movies he's made. He's a nice guy. He gets in trouble. He has to change his life. He gets, he discovers something about himself. It's the same performance over and over.
Like him in Role Models with.
But it was the same thing, and he did in Role Models. It's the same thing he does here, and it's the same thing he did in.
I Love You, Man.
Yeah, the same kind of thing. I'm just.
He is the master of the bromance.
Maybe that's what I'm missing. That I don't think there's any need for a bromance master.
Well, maybe he's maybe he's the stand-up guy. He's the Dean Martin to Jerry Lewis. He's like the guy that Sean William Scott plays off of. He's the guy that oh God, who was his co-star in I Love You, Man? I forget. Whoever it was. They play off of Paul Rudd. Jason Segel. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, but that doesn't make it work all the time, and I don't think it worked here at all because Steve Carell was the single most annoying thing I think I've seen in years.
Oh, come on. He was funny.
No.
Funny. It's nuanceical. It's office-like. It's the little things that Steve Carell does that are hilarious.
See, I found no nuance at all, and the way he has this annoying habit of staring at the camera like until he somehow breaks you down to laugh at the stupid thing he did. It's like, no. I just found him so tedious and annoying, like nails on a chalkboard.
Oh, my God.
And, yeah, see, that's just it. And I know people around me are laughing. I'm like, no, this is just painful for me to sit through.
He's just a goofy guy. He means well. Steve Carell doesn't often play outside of his range, his character ability. He's much more in this movie. He is much more of a caricature than he was in like Date Night. He's not playing.
I liked him in Date Night,
but here he's playing a boob, a real super nice guy, but just a schmuck.
The super nice boob is about as believable as the hooker with the heart of gold.
It's just a guy with no backbone, and he needs to, of course, probably predictable, find something to stand up for or find his place in life.
But did you really find him funny?
I think Steve Carell is hysterical.
No, this role, this particular part.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow. No, didn't work for me.
The scenes with him and Paul Rudd in the apartment, where
predictable.
Basically, Paul Rudd's, he dumps on the guy throughout the course of the movie, and he finally gets some empathy for him, and he realizes that through a series of circumstances, Steve Carell can't go back to his apartment. He has to stay the night in Paul Rudd's place. And the most grievous thing that he does is Paul Rudd's character has been trying to avoid a stalker. And Steve Carell's character just, I don't know, it's just funny. He pretends to be Tim, played by Paul Rudd, on a computer, and he doesn't know that this girl that has been, winking him behind Paul Rudd's fiance's back is really a stalker. So this crazy chick ends up being invited over to the apartment, and it causes a huge rift in Paul Rudd's love life. You know.
Yeah.
So it's it's the scenario where this Steve Carell's Barry is destroying Tim's life. Another thing I liked about this film was Ron Livingston, from Office Space.
He's in it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but he plays a real, like, just this snide, mean guy, which was different for him. He's usually the stand-up nice guy. He is usually like the guy who's in the Paul Rudd role, but here he gets to play someone menacing, and I thought it was amusing. And I liked Kirsten Shaw as Steve Carell's as Paul Rudd's assistant. And then again, Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
Oh my God!
Loved it.
Don't tell me.
Fucking loved his performance as
what performance?
He's the artist, Kieran, the guy who just obscene and absolutely over the top bad art. But he's like so full of himself that like his character is a way of life. He's
right.
like some mountain man Casanova guy that carries him. So
and it was the same character he played in Gentlemen Broncos. The same.
I don't know.
And that movie
hysterical, John.
We're gonna have to really agree to disagree or fight all night about this. I got hives sitting there watching this.
Well,
thing.
John, I come at it from being a Steve Carell fan, and a Jermaine Clement fan, and
I'm not a Jermaine Clement fan, and I'm a fan of some Steve Carell stuff, but I'm not a fan of The Office. I don't think that works. It doesn't work for me as a comedy.
Was it from the beginning, John? I mean, at what point did this disconnect with you?
With the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, from the start. I thought the premise was stupid, and it's so mean-spirited, and just it's nasty without being funny to me. And the whole thing about that he makes these dioramas out of roadkill. It was funny.
Off-putting to us. That's why it's funny.
No, it's off-putting, but it wasn't funny to me. And the fact that I swear, if you had a counter, you could see him go back to these dead rodent jokes like every 8 minutes in the movie, and it's like, okay, we get it, And then
John, when
other people at this dinner for Schmucks, I mean, okay, so there's that screeching lady who talks to her dead dinner.
Yeah, like Whoopi Goldberg.
There's the guy with the puppet who's his wife or whatever. But, there's a guy with a big mustache, and he's a schmuck because he's got a giant mustache. I just thought it was really underwritten for everyone, and then they just let, Carell keep throwing things against the wall, hoping something would stick. And I think that's the problem with Jay Roach and his as a director, is that he shows almost no control over his cast. He didn't in those awful Fokker movies. Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. Did you think they were funny?
Is he like a Dennis Dugan tool for comedy? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, he's an absolute tool for comedy.
Okay.
And it definitely has that Dugan-esque. I'm copywriting that Dugan-esque.
Yes.
He has a Dugan-esque way of just letting
as low as it gets.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, this is so much better than Grown Ups, John. So much better. I genuinely enjoyed Dinner for Schmucks.
I'm not going to defend one against the other, but I was not annoyed in Grown Ups the way I was in this movie.
Oh my God.
So
John, when Zach Galifianakis is trying to perform mind control in the IRS office and the camera zooming in on his face,
so
hysterical,
stupid.
John.
No, where's the comedy in that?
When they're shooting mind bullets at each other?
Are they three?
These are delusional people.
Yeah.
And that's the amusement. As if we, the audience, are these.
I guess I couldn't.
Corporate people that are inviting the idiots to dinner, and everybody's laughing at the idiots. But we don't do so as such as that we want, to them, to be just destroyed. I mean, they're actors. They're trying to be funny. We're down with it. We're not.
I think you made the point where I could not. The story wasn't strong enough for me. The performances weren't strong enough for me to make that leap. All I saw were guys acting like assholes.
Great. Well, I think it was hysterical.
But I think that's an
I
important
think the movie's
distinction.
going to do well. You know,
I think it's going to. I think
they've
if
screened it
that's-
early. That shows that the studio has confidence in it.
if that's your measure of success, yeah, I think it's going to make a ton.
Typically, you know, it's been that way. There have been big comedies that the studio has screened. We saw this a month ago.
Meet the Fockers made a lot of money, and I hated that
School
movie.
of Rock. You know, they screened that a month and a half before it came out because they knew they had something good on there.
How many screenings have there been for this thing? Is there anyone left who hasn't seen it? I mean, in the general public, let alone the press?
I don't know.
Showing it like every other day. There's still screenings.
There's a screening
tonight. Yeah, there's people out there ruining their evening right now.
Oh, John. Kristen Shaw, man. I love her. She is hysterical.
Who's that one?
Jermaine Clement. She's Paul Rudd's assistant.
Again, she's in it for like 2 minutes.
It's funny.
Right?
More than 2 minutes. Jermaine Clement, more than 2 minutes.
Jermaine Clements is a legitimate supporting role, but his secretary, you know, she's in it for, I swear, it's less than 5 minutes.
All right, I'll grant you that Paul, that Ron Livingston doesn't. It's not a huge supporting role, but it's enough. He's a bad guy. He's you know,
He's a cardboard bad guy. He's just there to. There's no depth there. It's just a cardboard bad guy.
No, there's no depth, but it's funny.
See, again, I couldn't.
I thought you were having fun with this movie.
No.
I thought this was.
No, I wish I'd had the kidney stone attack in this one instead of salt.
I'm looking at MovieWeb. MovieWeb says Dinner for Schmucks treats you to one hysterical meal.
Who's MovieWeb?
Movie website. MovieWeb.com.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Doesn't it say it over there? It's one hysterical meal.
Yeah. I bet you he wrote that headline before he even did that.
I'm just looking at the headline. I like MovieWeb.
How much you want to bet that's going to end up on an ad someplace? That sounds like a blurb whore rather than a legitimate headline.
It's just the title of an article.
Yeah, right.
I walked out of that movie thinking, "Damn, at last another funny movie."
Wow, really?
Yep, I thought this was like, I came home and I was talking to Sarah, but I was like, "Man, this was good. You missed a good one. Really enjoyed it."
Wow.
I mean, maybe it's because we have different opinions of Zach Galifianakis and Jermaine Clement and those guys and Steve Carell. I mean, we really like them, you know.
I guess. Well, I think we should walk away from this.
Turning our backs on Dinner for Schmucks.
Yes.
It's time. All right. So, hey, you know, let us know what you think. Send us an email at postmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And it's continually strange to me that we get like a couple thousand downloads, but no emails. Doesn't anybody want to talk to us? Good.
We might have to, you know, when we get Paul, we might have to have a, like almost like a phone chat show. We'll invite people to call us on Skype.
Yeah, you know, feedback would be great. You know,
any feedback.
Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our opinions. And check us out. Post-movie.net, and we're on Facebook too. So don't forget that emails. Don't forget it.
All right.
All right. Until next week, I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And it's the Post Movie Podcast. Adios.